Hey everybody, Sensei James Wall here along with Coach Matthew. We're going to be going over the throwing techniques that are in semester 1 of our adult rotating curriculum. This particular semester will be September through December of 2017. So we're going to work over the throwing techniques. Now it's important to remember we're going to be covering these in a fairly basic format. This video is not meant to be all-inclusive or meant to be down to the last minute detail. You definitely want to be coming to class to pick up on all the finer points and small details. This is meant as more of a good general study guide, so then you can watch to help refresh your memory as a study guide, maybe when you can't come to class or maybe you're injured or out of town, something like that. So we're not going to be covering these in incredible detail. We're going to hit the high points of each technique for you as just a study guide. So let's get right into it. Our first technique is Hiza-Garuma. This is the knee wheel. Now another technique for this semester is Sasai Surikomiyashi, the lift full foot prop. Both of those techniques I do on the same side. I do them as almost the same technique, just different leg positioning with the blocking foot. So you're going to see similarities there. There are other ways of doing these techniques that you might see in books or on YouTube. Again, this is the way that I do the techniques, what I'm going to be showing you today. So we'll start with Hiza-Garuma, the knee wheel. So I'll show from this side, and then we're going to turn to the other side so you guys can see the blocking leg. So from our standard judo grip, with Hiza-Garuma, my objective is to use my right foot to block his leg when he tries to step forward. In order to do that, I need to move out of the way. So one real easy, simple way to practice this is to have your partner standing here with his right foot forward, and I've got my right foot forward. I'm going to take my left foot and just step slightly off the line to the side and get on the ball of my foot. And as I do that, I'm going to bring my right foot up, the instep of it, and I want to place it above his knee, right on his thigh. So his leg is back, he wants to step forward, my leg is going to stop him from being able to do that. With my lapel gripping hand, my power hand, I'm going to pull him out and up, forward, so he tries to take that step. So try to avoid pulling downward if you can help it. It still works, but it tends to work a little better if we pull high up here at shoulder level. So one simple way here would be for me to step out to the side on the ball of my foot, then I'm going to pivot, bring my right foot up to his thigh, and pull him forward. So let's kind of see that from this side so you see what's happening. Again, my foot needs to go here, right on his thigh. So I'm going to step out to the side on the ball of my foot. I'm going to pivot, bring my foot up, and block, just like that. As I block, I want to pull stronger. So step, block, and throw. With a little more practice, we can do that moving forward and back with one step here. And of course, we could also increase to moving forward, him moving forward, me moving backward in a straight line. Now, our advanced players should also be able to perform this technique in what we call a circle step, or a more competition-oriented version. So for that, I'm going to step forward to his corner and pull him in a circle, just like that. And as he takes that step, I'll execute my Hiza-Garuma, my knee wheel block. Step and block, just like that. That's Hiza-Garuma, the knee wheel. I'm going to have Coach Matthew back over here. So our next technique, Sasai Surikomiyashi, like I mentioned earlier. Very similar technique, the way that I throw it. I'm going to be using my right foot to block his leg, but this time, instead of blocking him above the knee, I want to catch him way down low, right at the bottom of his shin, top of his foot, and the timing is a little different. With Hiza-Garuma, we try to catch his leg when it's fully back. For Sasai Surikomiyashi, I'm going to catch his foot about in the middle. Usually I try to think about it when this heel crosses the other heel. So I don't want to wait too late. If he gets up here, it is too late. But if I try too soon, I'm not going to usually have the reach I need. So right about middle of his step is when I want to block for Sasai Surikomiyashi. So we can work this one the same way. I can step out to the side and pivot on the ball of my foot, and then I can pull high and block low right at the bottom of shin, top of foot. Here. We can add a step back and forth into that. And of course, moving straight back, Advanced players also adding in a nice circle pull for a slightly more advanced or rondori type version of the technique. So again, two very similar throws. Just remember placement of your foot. It's going to be high for Hisaguruma. It's going to be low for Sasae-suri Komiyashi. For Hisaguruma, we catch the leg when it is far back. Sasae-suri Komiyashi, we catch the foot as it passes his other foot. So, next technique is going to be Yoko Otoshi. Yoko Otoshi is the side drop or the side body drop. So for this particular technique, what's going to happen is I'm going to take my left leg and I want it to land right beside my partner's leg. And it's important for this technique, I'm not throwing him at a forward angle. I want to throw him as much at a 90-degree angle as I possibly can. So straight across my leg. So for me, if I have my partner just stand here and not fall, this is what your leg position is going to do. It's going to move forward, drop right beside him with your upper body. You're going to project to your left. So it should look like this. You just stay standing for me, coach. So I'm going to move in, drop, and throw to the side. So notice how I'm projecting outward like that. It's very tempting as our body weight falls. We tend to kind of want to hit, and our angle goes over here. And that is a different throw. It's not Yoko Otoshi. So we'll move over a tiny bit more so I don't throw Coach Matthew off the mat. And this is what Yoko Otoshi could look like, one version of it. Leg goes beside him. He goes over that way. We also sometimes practice that by stepping side to side, just like this, just so I can feel this body rise and fall. Of course, this is not realistic for rondori or competition. It's just a training exercise or a drill to help me time the drop. So I'll go on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Next technique this semester, Kuchiki Tayoshi, the dead tree drop. So we don't want to confuse this with Kibisu Gaishi, the heel trip reversal. In their basic form, they are very similar. So the heel trip reversal, I would go all the way down and I would actually grab the back of his heel. For the dead tree drop, I'm going to grab here, right behind his knee, and lift it up, throw him backwards. There are a lot of variations for finishing this. I can take him backwards, or I can step in a circle and pull him slightly forward. So, basic version, I might break his grip, drive his hand down beside his knee as my right foot steps in close, let my left hand release his sleeve, it scoops right behind his knee. As I lift up his knee, my power hand is going to push his shoulder down and back. So from here, I would lift this toward my hip and drive it down like that. So for my advanced players, a slightly more advanced version of this technique could take place as a combination with our Uchimata. So I may go for Uchimata versus his left leg here and be unable to finish that technique, but I can reach across with my left hand, grab the knee, and scoop it out, just like that. Another option that you have with the basic version is once you grab the leg and lift, instead of pushing backwards, you can actually step in a semicircle here and push him downward into the front corner like that. And that also makes a good finish. Sometimes catches them by surprise. They're expecting to go backwards, and instead you bring them forward. So that's Kuchiki Tayoshi, dead tree drop, a basic version and a more advanced version. Now this semester we have two techniques on the list for our advanced players, and they are both going to be variations of a throw called Yoko Guruma, the side wheel. The first version is the kata version, the version we see in Nagi no kata. So we're going to see that, from a stationary position first, and then the actual full kata version. So what happens in the kata is I, the defender, end up with my attacker holding me in this side headlock or bulldog headlock. And I have my hands sort of clamping him. My back hand is clamping at his body at waist level on his belt. My front hand is clamping here on his front belt knot. And as he's kind of pushing me and holding me here, my right leg is going to swing through his legs and I'm going to throw him straight across like that. So I have him clamped, my right leg swings through, and I project him over. Notice how I'm using my legs to get a little bit of a bridging motion to pitch him across. Okay? Now, for Nagi no Kata, what would happen is my attacker is going to try to hit me in the head, boom, just like that. And I move in. What I want to do is throw uranage. That's a throw that occurs earlier in the kata, the rear throw, or kind of a belly to back suplex. But this time the attacker is aware of that. So as I try to do uranage, he grabs me in a headlock, and that kind of shuts down my uranage. So he comes to hit me, I go for uranage, but I find myself stuck in this headlock. So instead of trying to power out of it, leg goes through, and I throw him in Yoko Guruma, side wheel. So that's our kata version I want the advanced players to learn. Now we also have another version of that for the advanced players I refer to as the sleeve push-through version. So this takes place from a cross grip. So as we're grip fighting, I'm going to reach across, pull his right hand across my body, and my left hand is going to grab his belt here. This time, as I fall, instead of my leg going through, I'm actually going to drive his arm through, all right? And my motion stays almost the same. I drive through and throw him across here, just like that. So that's our sleeve push-through version of Yoko Guruma side wheel. All right, those are your throwing techniques for this semester. It's September through December 2017. All right, guys, we're back. We're going to go over the counters and defenses and then the combinations for semester 1, 2017. This is September through December. Just like I said earlier in the video when we talked about the throwing techniques, this is not meant to be an exhaustive, detailed instructional video. It's meant to be a general guide to help you in your studies. As always, there's no substitute for being in class, being on the mat, working on the techniques. Let's go ahead and get into it with the counters and defenses. First one, he attacks me with Hizaguruma, the knee wheel. I'm going to counter by doing a heel pick and then O Uchigari. Sometimes the heel pick actually turns into more of a Kuchiki Daioshi or a dead tree drop. Sometimes we grab the foot, sometimes we grab behind the knee, so there's definitely room in the technique for there to be some variation. So Coach Matthew's going to attack with Hizaguruma. As he does, I trap his heel, or it could be the back of his knee, and then I fencer step in and then perform O Uchigari and rebound his remaining leg. Notice how I gave him a lot of good support there. Take care of your partner. It's kind of a hard fall, okay? For that technique to work, I have to be very fast. I have to know when that Hizaguruma is coming. If I wait too long, it's going to be too late, okay? Next one, he's going to try to throw me with Sasai Surikomiyashi, the lift full foot prop. As he does that, I'm going to manage to step over his Sasai, and then I'm going to turn and execute Hizaguruma on his other leg. So we'll see it from this side, then we'll also turn around. So he tries to execute Sasai Surikomiyashi here. I step across, pivot, and throw Hizaguruma. So let's see it from this side as well. Step forward and over his leg, not just out to the side. And now that allows me to basically be in position for a circle step pull with this hand as I block his leg. So his attack was Sasai, my finish was Hizaguruma. Next we have Yoko Otoshi, side body drop. He's going to try that throw. My response is going to be to not land on my back. I'm going to perform a cartwheel or a round off. I'll have Coach Matthew over here on this side. So remember, for Yoko Otoshi, the opponent is going to drop right beside us, try to project us in that direction. So we have to get our hands free. And the easiest thing for me to do is get my hands down and then pivot basically toward his head. So as he drops into position, my hands are going to go down as I cartwheel or round off out of it. Again, good. And as always, the goal is we're not landing on our back, not getting thrown for ippon. Sometimes that may end up with us just managing to pivot, land on our knees. That's okay. He didn't get a score on that throw. Maybe I'm in a good position to get the pin. Last counter and defense technique, the attack is going to be Uchimata. and my counter is going, his attack is going to be Kuchiki Tayoshi, the dead tree drop. My counter is actually going to be Uchimata. So when we talked about Kuchiki Tayoshi earlier, we talked briefly about the importance of lifting his leg up high, kind of pinning it to your hip. If you can manage to get control of your leg before the attacker does that, it's pretty easy to convert this into your own Uchimata. I'll have Coach Matthew on the side. So what he wants to do is he wants to break my grip and shoot in, and he wants to lift my leg up and pin it to his hip, just like that. So when that happens, as he does that, what I want to do is get a grip on the back here, and as he lifts my leg up, it's important that I get my foot inside his thigh. That's going to make it really hard for him to lift it any higher. Now I got to make up some room, so my left leg has to jump and spin me around beside him. So I go from this position to this position, and now it's pretty easy to finish with an Uchimata. So the most important thing there is as soon as you feel your leg starting to lift, you have to establish the grip on his back, and you have to get your foot to hook inside his thigh. That will stop him from getting your leg up to his hip. If he gets his leg up to his hip or above, you're going to have a real hard time countering it. Not going to be able to counter it with Uchimata. You have to try something different. All right, our combination techniques this time, we have Hizuguruma as the main attack, finishing with Sasai Surikomiyashi. Again, more than one way to do this technique. I'm going to show you the way that I do it. Let's do it from this side. So what I'm going to do is attempt to throw Hizuguruma, but he's going to step over. It's Hizuguruma, correct? Yes, Hizuguruma. He tries to step over, and so as he does that, I'm going to just readjust and attack his foot now that it's further forward. I won't use Hizuguruma for the second attack. I'll use Sasai Surikomiyashi. Previous video, we talked about how with Hizuguruma, we catch the leg when it's far back, and with Sasai, we catch the foot when it's further forward. So this kind of leads into that pretty well. So I go for my Hizuguruma, he steps over, but now his foot is further forward. So all I have to do is take a small adjustment step, prop his foot, and execute the Sasai Surikomiyashi. Let's see it from right here. Hizu, I miss it, step, block, and pull for Sasai Surikomiyashi. Next combination technique is I attempt Uchimata, finish with Kuchiki Tayoshi, the dead tree drop. We actually touched on this earlier. I mentioned it as an advanced way to throw Kuchiki Tayoshi, something the advanced players could work on. We included in this set as a combination. So I'm going to have my rear collar grip. My opponent has his left leg forward. So in this instance, I attack for Uchimata, but I'm not quite able to finish it. And so we end up in sort of a kin-kin Uchimata position where I have his leg up, but he's still hopping and supporting himself on one leg, just like I am. I haven't been able to quite bring him over, so I'm going to use my left hand, grab behind his knee, and execute the dead tree drop. So I enter for Uchimata, and I've tried to finish. I can't quite get it, so my left hand releases his sleeve, shoots behind his knee, and I pull his knee out just like that. So when you're working this technique, it's important to remember to grab behind your partner's knee and pull it forward the way it's supposed to bend. Don't grab it and pull it sideways the way it's not supposed to bend. We're not trying to hurt them, we just want to get our throw to work. Okay? Last technique is actually a ground technique, a combo. It's a kneeling Hizuguruma, and we're going to finish with Jujigatami, the crossbody armbar. So we'll do that one from both sides. So in this case, we're here on our knees. What I'm going to do is use my foot to prop his thigh right above his knee, just like when I do my standing technique. And I'm going to use that as an opportunity to have this hand pull his arm out nice and straight. So I would step in just a bit with my other knee, block, and I'm going to fall out and back to the side just a little bit. And remember, I want to pull this arm straight, get it as straight as I can. So as I go back, I stop him from being able to come forward. And that allows me to get this leg over his body, execute my Jujigatami from here or from here. So let's see that from the other side. So with grip, I step in and block him here, drop him right here on his hands and knees, boom, pull his arm out straight, just like that. If I had his arm up here, I would probably execute he's a gatami, the knee arm lock. But in this case I didn't, I had it here by my lapel. But I'm still able to pull it straight. So now I can throw my left leg over. Now I might even be able to use it to peel him back, back, back for Juji Gatami here. But I don't necessarily have to. If I'm able to get the leg across, I can execute here, here, or here, possibly even grabbing his gi, rolling him over, and finishing here. So a lot of that's going to depend on exactly how your partner reacts and what he does when you block the knee and start executing your Juji Gatami. All right, those are your counters and your defenses. Go along with semester 1, September through December 2017. All right, guys, we're back. We're going to cover some of the groundwork techniques for semester 1, 2017, September through December. So we're going to cover the pins, we're going to cover some chokes, and some joint locks for you guys. So we have 2 pinning techniques here. We have Mune Gatami, the chest hold, and this time we're doing what's referred to as a cross-face version. And then we also are going to be using Makura Keisa Gatami, the pillow scarf hold. So I'm going to have Coach Matthew lay on his back with his head toward the camera first. Let's look at this Makura Keisa Gatami. It's really just a very minor modification to our normal Keisa Gatami, but it is a very powerful modification, one that's really good for competition use. So from my standard Keisa Gatami position, sometimes the opponent manages to power their shoulder up, and I can use this. Sometimes we actually lift them up ourselves to make it work. But what I'm going to do is get my forward knee and leg and drive underneath his shoulder so I can grab it with my right hand. So maybe I have a tight hold, but I want to make it even tighter. So I lift him up, knee under his shoulder, and if I can, my hand will grab right behind my knee. Now, if I can't quite get there, maybe I can just grab the material of my pants, and that's okay as well. But if I can get here with my fingers, that's going to be a very, very strong hold. And then I'm going to clamp down and squeeze real tight. And that, of course, makes it much harder for him to move. It allows us to exert a lot of pressure on his chest and really start to squeeze him a lot. Next pin for this semester is our Mune Gatami, our chest hold, and it's really not a different pin so much as just a slight variation. So the way that we typically do Mune Gatami is my knees are beside his body and they're out wide. I go chest to chest and I'm controlling the far arm or shoulder. So by crossface, all I'm going to do is take the upper arm and I'm going to go behind his head with it. And I might grab here with the gable grip, or I might let this hand and fingers grip him underneath his armpit while this hugs his shoulder. So any combination of those is fine. And what I'm going to be doing is using my shoulder and my bicep to really put a little bit of pressure on the side of his head and neck. Not enough to be considered a neck crank, but certainly enough to make the pin very, very tight and uncomfortable, make it hard for him to move. So I would really start to put pressure here. You can kind of see his head and face starting to turn as I'm pushing into it. Okay. So those are the 2 pinning techniques that we're working on this semester. Our typical escapes are the ones we're going to still go for. For the Makura Keisa Gatami, we're going to work the bridge and roll. Uphill turn, not quite a good solution there, but possibly a leg entanglement or maybe a sit-up escape. And for the cross face, we still want to frame up, we want to bridge, we want to shrimp and try to recover our guard if we can. Those are going to be our primary escapes, just like for the standard versions of both of those hold downs. So let's move on into some chokes and some joint locks. We have Ashi Gatami, which is actually a foot lock in this instance. And the typical way that we do that, just from a basic or beginner perspective, is when my opponent's on his back and I'm in his guard. So I'm going to have Mr. Matthew lay right here for an example to start, and I'll be here in his guard. So one way that I like to work on it is just a basic beginning level technique, is to do a separation pass by bringing my right knee up. So my left knee goes to the center of his body, and then I step my right knee up and back to open his guard, and that sort of exposes this foot or ankle. So from here, my right arm is going to come back, and I'm going to circle around beneath his heel and ankle. So I circle around and shoot through. And so I want his toes right up here by the top of my shoulder. And it's kind of hard to see on foot locks. It makes them kind of hard to teach, but I want the edge of my wrist pulling into his heel. And I want my shoulder and armpit to be pulled tight tight, tight against his heel on top of his foot. So I'm not out here on his shin, I'm back here like I'm trying to pull his foot completely off of his leg. So I'm hooked over and then under here. Now I'm going to grab my own hand in a gable grip. And to finish the technique, we typically want to lift upward and then look over the shoulder in the direction of that foot. What I like to also do is go ahead and bring my knees up, squeeze both sides of his knee. The same way we would do with Judo Gatami, we'd use our knees to squeeze the elbow to help kind of isolate and control movement. So from this position, I typically pop up, fall back, squeeze. And this makes that foot lock very tight. Now I'm going to thrust up, back, and over my shoulder, just like that. So that motion for me, here, here. I'm going to pull in tight, I lift upward, and also back in that direction. Put a lot of pressure on the ankle and also on his heel. Remember that in competition judo, even in freestyle judo, foot and leg locks are never legal. So we're showing these for overall grappling knowledge and learning. Some of you guys also do jiu-jitsu, and it's just a good idea to have these basic foot and leg locks in your arsenal. You cannot do these in standard judo. Do not do them in randori in judo class unless the instructor has told you, okay, tonight we are also working foot and leg locks. Okay. Next technique is going to be ashi ude garami. This is a variation of our ude garami. Ude garami is the entangled arm lock. In this case, we're using our leg to perform some of the entangling. So it's going to be a leg entangled arm lock. So a lot of different ways we can do ashi ude garami. One basic version or way occurs when I attempt to do ude garami here, but my opponent reaches behind my leg and grabs his own belt to stop me. So I go for my ude garami. Ordinarily I would go here, but he manages to grab his own belt and stop me. So I can't quite finish the lock. So I pull out my upper arm. My lower one keeps control of his arm. I use this arm to push him away from me and start turning my body. I want my feet pointing toward his head. I want my head pointing toward his feet. So this goes to his shoulder and side of his neck. I push and turn my body outward. Now my feet point toward his head. Now I'm going to power myself up. As I do that, I'm going to switch my grips. I want this hand to reach over his back so he can't take a forward somersault. So I was here, I'm here, and then I sit up so he can't roll forward. Kick my leg behind and sit forward just like that. So let's try that from this position. He defends, push away for space, kick my leg out, and turn. Switch, grab, sit up. This leg goes behind. You can see his arm is entangled with my leg. So now I can either sit forward, or in some cases it helps to sit toward his opposite shoulder, just like that. Now, another version of this technique, the version that I particularly like to use myself, is when he's in my guard and I employ a cross gripping motion. So I grip, pull his arm across, opposite foot to hip. This arm dives down as I kick forward. Kick, kick, kick. This hand now keeps him from making his somersault as I kick through, then sit up and execute my lock right there. So just another variation, perhaps a good one for the advanced players to work with as well. So ashi ude garami, leg entangling arm lock. Choking technique this semester is okiri iri jame. This is the sliding lapel choke. The basic variation or basic version is when my partner is in front. I have the seated rear mount, hooks in, ankles not crossed, and I have my seatbelt position here. So what I'm going to do is use my left hand to open his lapel. My right thumb slides as deep as I can get it. Left hand reaches across, grabs the other lapel, and pulls downward. So we grab and pull down. And this takes all the slack out of the lapel behind his neck. So we pull down, the right hand pulls up and around to execute the choke. So it's this motion. Okiri, Iri, Jame. Sliding lapel choke, also sometimes called the assisting lapel choke. We have another technique here. We actually have three that we have designated just for the advanced ranks. So one of them is going to be Senkaku Gatami. This is the triangle hold, not just a triangle choke. That would be Senkaku Jume. Everyone had to learn it for yellow belt. So this is going to be Senkaku Gatami, the triangle hold. Again, a lot of different ways to get into this position. The basic way would be me starting on my back with him in my guard, going for Senkaku Jume, rolling him over and pinning him then from Senkaku Gatami. So that could look something like this. So I'm going for my choke, not quite able to finish the choke, so I'm going to power him over, and then sit up on top of him here for Senkaku Gatami, a triangle pin or hold. Now we might also have, on your back here, would you head that way, Coach? We might also go directly from a top mount situation here. So perhaps I manage to get my knee onto his arm, lift him up, kick over, scoop, hook, and lock, and we have Senkaku Gatami here, also the triangle hold. And there are countless other ways to enter. We can do it from Kesa Gatami as well. So that's going to be two basic versions. Either one of those that you use for demonstration purposes, you're going to be just fine. Our remaining two techniques for advanced players, one of them is our heel hook. Again, not legal in judo competition, very seldom legal in any grappling tournaments or circles. It's very, very easy to do damage to someone's Achilles tendon using this technique, but it is one we need to be aware of as grapplers, particularly if we're brown belt level or higher. So I'm going to have him on his back here. So from that same position we had earlier, where I was attempting my ashigatami, my ankle lock or foot lock, sometimes we're not quite able to get it, but we do have a real good position to possibly get our heel hook. So for the heel hook, I want the crook of my elbow to go behind his heel. So I'm going to scoop it back and then underneath his heel here. Grab my hand, lift up, and twist here. So I'm executing a lot of pressure right there on the Achilles tendon. So again, we want to be super careful with that. Stand up for me, Coach, and be right over here. Another way we may see this from our advanced players would be from what we would call a reverse de la Hiva guard, or from my judo guys, it could also be one of our techniques that we perform in Katami no Kata called Ashigarami, entangled leg lock. So in this case, I was here, my leg went inside and around, and I pushed him down here. So now I've ended up with his heel sticking up. It's very easy to take my elbow, hook the heel, execute the lock right here by lifting up and back on the exposed heel. So that's another good entry, and advanced players, brown and black belts, should probably be practicing that and be prepared to demonstrate that on promotion exams, because I may ask to see it. It's a real good way to get into it. Personally, I find it easier to do from that position than from the other position. It just seems to fall into place easily for me. And last but not least, we have a variation of a heel hook or foot lock called the Estima lock. This is really just another ashigatami, another foot or ankle lock. In this case, I'll have my partner again on his back here. So in this case, we're going to say that we were fighting and working, and he has a grip on my sleeve, and he comes over the top trying to do what we would call a lasso guard type setup. And so let's turn a little bit this way. So what I'm going to do here is push his foot into my chest, bring this hand up, and I'm going to grab into the crook of my elbow and then over the top here. Then I execute the lock by pulling up on his shin and heel and pushing downward on his foot here. So as you can see, what's happening is his foot is stuck here against my body, and my arm goes through here and here, and so I'm able to execute really kind of like a sort of a sideways twisting motion. Puts a lot of pressure on his ankle and on his heel. So the arm position is very similar to military or competition style Hadaka Jame. So we're here, foot goes sideways, we go underneath, grab, and execute the lock right there. Be real careful with this, with any of the foot and ankle locks and heel hooks. Those are small joints and small tendons that we're manipulating. It doesn't take a lot of pressure in some cases to do damage, and sometimes the threshold between it hurting or not hurting, sometimes a very thin line. So never grab any of these foot or ankle locks, really any joint lock, particularly these. Never grab one of those and just go really fast with it. Always go slow and easy. Determine what your partner's threshold and flexibility are like. All right, so that's your groundwork portion for this semester, September through December 2017. All right, guys, here we go with the miscellaneous mat work, semester 1, 2017, September through December. Got a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of stuff utilizing Senkaku, the triangle choke. So a lot of good techniques for you guys. So let's get right into it. This first technique is a single leg hug guard pass versus the closed guard. So I'm going to have Coach Matthew here on his back. I'll be in his guard. Now I say from the closed guard, you could also execute this if you were here kind of fighting in the open guard. I'm going to show it starting in closed guard, and what I'm going to do is just a separation technique just to open up the guard and expose his leg. So my right knee is going to come over and my left knee goes up and back to open his guard and expose the leg. I'm going to bear hug his thigh. So by bear hug, both arms all the way around, hugging real tight. When I do that, I'm going to put my head into his ribs and his hip here. And I'm going to be using the top of my head into his stomach a little bit to keep him from being able to sit up easily and get on my back. I'm going to drop all of my weight on his leg by sprawling my feet out. So in effect, I want to do a sprawl and just kind of crush his leg down and trap it to the mat. So I bear hug, head into his tummy and his hip and ribs, then I sprawl out here. So it's real important, notice that I'm all the way out and my chest is actually on top of his leg. So I'm not doing this and just trying to hold his leg while stepping over. I actually want my chest and body weight on his thigh all the way down to his knee. Then I use my toes to walk my way around past his leg. They almost always use their hand to start trying to block us. If they do, move out your upper arm, grab his sleeve, use that to pull him toward you and pull you toward him. Here, finish your pass. Get into pin like a good Munegatami from the side there, okay? That's our single leg hug guard pass. Our next technique is a counter that maybe I might be able to utilize if I were the person on bottom. So I'm going to take Coach Matthew's spot and have him over here. So he's going to be executing this single leg hug guard pass. So in order for me to beat this, one of the best ways to do that is if I can manage to push him down, get him lower on my leg. The closer I can get him down to my knee, the better. If I get him away from my hip joint, I've got some movement. So when he opens up my guard, starts his leg hug, as soon as he sprawls out, I'm going to be putting my hands here. And as he starts trying to come around, I'm going to push him that way and try to move my body out this way. Now, I'm not trying to pull my leg totally out. If I can, great. That's not really what I think I'm going to accomplish. Just trying to get enough movement in my hip and knee so I can throw my leg over. So I'm going to push him away, make a little bit of space. Once I've done that, now I'm going to throw this leg over and hook under his armpit. So I'm starting to climb up onto his back a little bit. So I throw the leg over and I hook my heel into his armpit. I'm going to grab him here at his bicep, tricep, and elbow, and I'm going to pull him back toward me. And look, that puts me in position for a nice Senkaku right here. Okay? So one more time on that one. He goes for this leg hug pass. Here, I'm going to shove him down, throw my leg over, pull him back, execute Senkaku there. So it's Senkaku versus a single leg hug guard pass. Our next technique, Senkaku from seated rear mount. So it's very, very similar to what you just saw, except this time I've managed to turn him over and I've got my hooks in from behind. Maybe I'm in this seatbelt position. I like to do this one from this double under position where I've got underhooks on his armpits and I'm grabbing both of his lapels. If he starts bringing these hands in trying to fight me, what I'm going to do is grab this hand with my right one and trap his wrist and forearm against his body. Now, my right foot is going to unhook and go onto his hip. And I'm going to push myself back about 6 or 8 inches so I can start to lay him down a little bit. Now this next part is a little tricky. You have to work on the timing. What I need to do is get my right leg to go over his shoulder on this side. So this hand has to come out. But if I pull the hand out too soon, it gets away. If I try to bring the leg up too soon, I kind of get bound up. I kind of stick myself there. So as the leg starts to come up, just as it makes that transition over his shoulder, that's when this hand comes out. And ideally, I want this heel and shin to hand off to this hand. And I'm going to use that to really cinch. It pulls my leg deeply under his neck, and look, it also lifts his arm up real high. Now I can go for Senkaku. What you'll find is sometimes it's better to raise their arm up tall. Sometimes it's better to push it down and squeeze. You have to sort of experiment and see what position works best for you. So Senkaku from seated rear mount. All right, next we have 2 turnover techniques, both utilizing Senkaku. One we call Senkaku turnover from front, the other we call a Senkaku turnover from the rear. These are somewhat hard to demonstrate in a video format. There's a lot of small details that occur that it's kind of hard for you to see. So again, use this video as a general guide just to help you remember the basic techniques. You're going to need to be in class working on these with the black belts there to kind of help you with the finer points. So the Senkaku turnover from the front will sort of set the stage. We'll say that my opponent attacked me with maybe a double leg takedown, and I was able to sprawl, push him or crush him down onto his hands and knees. So we've kind of ended up in this position. I'm going to take my right knee, put it here on his shoulder, and drive my knee down to the ground. Now if his forearm and wrist are in the way, I'll go ahead and kind of crush those a little bit, and he'll probably move out of the way. But my knee to the ground, to the front of my thigh, right against his shoulder and the side of his neck. So here and here, drive in deep. My other heel is going to step up, and I'm going to drive it behind the armpit of his other arm, here and here. And I'm really pushing my knee and heel in. I want to try to get him to touch if possible, get him as deep as I can. Then I reach across and grab this arm or this gi, and I'm going to fall backwards in this direction. As I do, I want to just cross my ankles together so his arm stays trapped. If I don't, he can get his arm out, and that's no good for me. So I want to be here and here. Not worried about trying to finish the Senkaku just yet. I just want to keep him stuck here. I'm going to deal with his free arm. My hand that's by his head grabs his wrist. My other hand laces through and grabs my own wrist in this ude garami or figure 4 type arrangement. And now I do a crunch, and I drive his hand down toward his waist like this, here. Once it's there, my upper hand keeps it trapped, my lower hand releases my wrist, folds over the top to hold it, and I'm going to grab his belt or his gi, whichever you have easy access to, and I'm going to hand it off here. And then I'm going to pull it through tightly. So now what I've done is I've tied this hand up. If he had unlimited time, he would eventually work it free, but it's not going to be easy for him to do. Now that I've secured that hand, I'm going to sit up, grab his other sleeve or wrist, pull it to me. To finish the Senkaku, we have to make a pillow. So my lower leg, right now it is behind his shoulder. I want it to slide up so it's just behind his neck. Now I have enough angle and enough room. This foot goes behind this knee, and I squeeze for Senkaku. Now I also have a bent armbar here and here, and I also could hold this, kick my legs free, move up into a modified Kami Shiho Gatami hold. From here, if I wanted to, I could also use this grip to lift him up, release, and finish an ude garami from here. So this one turnover gives us multiple possible finishes if we can successfully execute the turnover and get his hand tied up. So again, that is a very complex technique. It's one that's meant for our advanced players to be working on this semester, not for the novices. It's a good technique. I've used it successfully in different forms over the years, but it is not one that you're going to get the first couple of times you try it. You're going to have to work on it, find the little changes and little tweaks you need to make it your own. So the next one is the same thing, but we're starting behind our opponent. So in this case, what I've done is I'm sort of riding his hip. I'm going to reach my arm underneath his armpit, grab his wrist, pull it to his chest. Now I'm going to rotate my body around. So I put a hand on him to hold him down. I step, step. This foot now goes behind this armpit, this leg on his shoulder. Here and here. And I pull, pull, pull. Cross my ankles. So what you'll notice is I'm executing the same sequence of movements, but on the opposite side of his body. Upper hand, the one by his head, grabs his wrist. Lower hand laces through, grabs my own wrist. I tuck it down. I pull his gi through, grab his arm, make him a pillow. Senkaku, arm bar, arm bar. Modified pin, pulled up, Ude Garami. Now, if you find that you're having extreme difficulty because everything is on the opposite side, execute your Senkaku turnover from the rear, starting on his other hip. So, if he's here on hands and knees, the version I just showed you, I used my right hand to reach through, pulled his right hand to his chest. If that's giving you trouble, just switch to this hip. Left hand pulls his left arm to his body. Now, when I spin here, I'm going to be in exactly the same position I was in for the very first version, the Senkaku turnover that we did from the front. Okay, so again, those two techniques, great techniques, but they're complex. A lot of particularly small, precise movements. Use this video as a rough guide. Fine-tune it in class with the black belts helping you out. And again, those are just for the advanced players this semester, as well as this next technique, our last one of this set. It's going to be Senkaku from a failed Jujigatami from the guard. So I'll be on my back, and I'll have Coach Matthew here in my guard. So I start out trying to execute a basic Jujigatami against his arm. So I isolate his arm, control his hip, control his shoulder, slide my leg up, start motioning for my Jujigatami. If everything goes perfectly, I bring the leg over, execute Jujigatami. But sometimes we get here and this guy manages to pull his arm free. So when that happens, we don't want to give up all this good position we've already attained. So I use this leg to chop in, and I need to transition, get my head from this side all the way to this side. Pull his arm across, foot behind the heel, and execute my Senkaku to finish the lock. So Senkaku, Jume, triangle choke from a failed Jujigatami. And again, that's a technique for the advanced players to work on this semester. All right, guys, that's it for your miscellaneous mat work. All right, this is going to be the self-defense techniques for semester 1, 2017 of our adult rotating curriculum. This is September through December 2017. Got Sensei John here to help me out. We have 4 different attack scenarios. Some of these are taken directly from our Goshin Jitsu Kata. Remember, with self-defense, again, these are meant to be basic guidelines. If you're a novice and you have no idea what to do, utilize these techniques. If you're an advanced player with a lot of self-defense training and experience, you are welcome to change these up as long as it is something that makes sense. Okay, so first technique, my opponent is going to approach from behind, grab me in a rear naked choke from behind. So the first thing we have to do is get our fingers up, hook into his forearm. I'm going to use not only my arm strength, but my whole body to crunch down. I got to get this off my windpipe, tuck my chin, and turtle my shoulders a little bit so I'm not getting choked. So I grab, crunch, and turtle. I'm going to push upward with my right shoulder as I step out and turn. So I'm going to slip his arm up and off of my body. Once I'm here, I'll turn here so we can see. I'm here, I control his wrist, control his elbow. By pushing down, I'm executing an elbow lock. I walk straight backwards and push him down, down, down onto his face. Use my knee to finish up. Knee goes into his tricep. My wrist sits on my knee. That gives me some extra power to finish the elbow lock or break. All right, second technique. The opponent comes behind me, grabs me in a bear hug over my arms. So as he does that, my left hand comes up, grabs his wrist of his right hand. I'm going to drop my weight, spread my legs, and also shrug my arms out and up. My arms are going to slightly taper upward, kind of like a pyramid. So this causes his arms to sort of slide up toward my shoulders. So I grab and start to break his lock. Now, if his hands break loose, I will turn outward in this manner. So his hands break loose here, so I turn, 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 and push. So this arm is inside. This arm is being pushed behind him. So in effect, it's an ude-garami, an entangled arm lock. We could also call this a hammer lock takedown. At this point, I'll give him a big push. If he's an unskilled person, he's probably going to collapse and fall down. A skilled guy here, we're doing it for a kata type demonstration. He'll do a standing roll and come to his feet. Now, it's also perfectly acceptable, either if you prefer it or if his grip doesn't break, that you can duck underneath. So he grabs, I grab, I stomp here. So if his hands didn't break free, I can't turn outward. So instead, I shrug up here and then push here and fish this through here. And I get to the same spot. Now, I didn't point out in the first iteration, but when he grabs, as I grab, if I feel the need, I might take my heel and first stomp the top or instep of his foot. So I could stomp as a distraction, then execute my break. Turn out if I break the grip, go under if I don't break. All right, third technique is a bear hug under the arms. My basic judo self-defense here is going to be to trap his arm to my body, clamp it down, extend my right leg out, toes down. I've got my leg under his knee. I execute a throw we call maki komi, a wrapping throw. I wrap, 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 and fall here. Now I use my forearm to catch myself so I didn't hurt my partner. In reality, we would try to land and put as much pressure and force into their ribs and side as possible, knock the wind out of them, maybe break some ribs in the process. Be very careful when doing this technique with your partner. Don't want to hurt each other. Might even want to use a crash pad when you're first doing it for the first, couple dozen times. All right, last technique. He comes behind me, grabs me in a full Nelson from behind. So one of the things they usually try to do when they get a full Nelson is to put pressure and push you down so you're looking at the floor. What I want to do is put my hands together here, put the back of my palm on my own forehead, and use my hands and arms to push back against my own head. So therefore he can't push me down. His muscles can't fire in this forward position for too long. They start to lose power. So it's not long before I feel that, not let go, but I feel the pressure lessen just a little bit. When that happens, I'm going to step to the side and lower my body weight, spread my arms. We sometimes call it the king tut. So I go from here and I go down and out to the side like this. So it's not a snap. I'm not trying to throw his arms off. It's more of a very, very constant but steady, powerful push. As my body weight drops, my arms also push out. So here and there. Now, right leg steps behind. You have a couple of choices. We could execute the judo technique called Sekue Nage, scooping throw. Grab behind his knees, lift and toss him back. Or I could keep the arm across his body. I could turn sharply, drop him over my knee, or I could just push him to the side here and make him fall down in a good safe back fall. That's a pretty good one to do just in practice with your partner so you don't bang them up too much. All right, so Those are your basic self-defense techniques for this semester. As I've said through this entire video for this semester, this video is meant to be a general guide, not an exhaustive learning tool. Use it to help you study and remember the techniques, but get in class, work on the specifics.